definitely want to, oh, hello, let's go ahead and get started. We definitely want to end on time. Hey, Rosie, could you do me a favor and drop the presentation so that we can, as we're doing introductions, we can see all the folks that are online. Okay, thank you very much. And for those of you that are online, particularly now for introductions, if you're able to turn your camera on, at least for a few minutes so we can see you. Okay, there's Hugh riding on Frontrunner. Thank you. Well, it's great to see everybody here for this second meeting of the Wasatch Choice Community Advisory Committee. Thank you for coming. I'm Andrew Gruber. I'm Executive Director here at the Wasatch Front Regional Council. In a minute, we're going to go around and everybody's going to introduce themselves again, remind us what your name is and the organization, if you're here for an organization, the organization that you are representing. And then let's see, we sent information out about the meeting agenda. But just as a reminder, what we're going to start, we'll do introductions. And then after that, we're going to have a discussion or we're going to report to you back on the objectives. You remember at the first meeting, we spent a bunch of time going over the objectives for this group. We took your feedback. We really appreciated it. We got some more feedback after the meeting was over from some of you. And so Lauren is going to actually go over the updated objectives, which we sent out to you, just so we make sure that we're all on the same page. Then we're going to show you a brief video about the Wasatch Choice Vision. We're going to have a little bit of sharing from at least one of our advisory committee members. Somebody knows who they are. I don't remember who's doing that. Huh? Or Leah? Okay, terrific. And then we're going to get into the heart of our meeting here, which is the actual advising process. Okay, I'm just preview this for a moment. You know, we've talked about this before, but one of the main roles that we in the transportation agencies serve is thinking about the community and about the future and about the transportation needs for the future of our community. And together, the transportation agencies develop this Wasatch Choice Vision. And a core part of that is the regional transportation plan. And we want to share we will share some information with you about that plan. So that's us informing. And then remember last time we talked about the idea that you as a committee can help in getting information out to your respective communities, to your respective organizations, to help bring in more input and feedback on these plans and programs as they're developed. So what we're going to talk about here is we'll sort of give you an overview of the plan and how it's put together. And then we're going to talk about how we might be able to work together to share information out about these transportation plans for the future with the community. And let me just be clear up front right now, we are hoping and we are asking that as a member of this committee, you will take it upon yourselves with our support, okay, with our support, to share information out to your organizations, to your community, and help us get feedback. Because that's sort of the point here, right? Is that you as individuals, you become more informed about the transportation plans and programs, and you provide us independently or individually, you provide us all the transportation agencies' feedback. So it's a two-way street. We're providing information to you, you're giving feedback to us and guidance to us, but then also we're working together and we're relying on you to help outreach to the communities. Okay, so we can make sure that we have broad, diverse voices participating in the planning for transportation and other things, but transportation for the future of our community. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Basically makes sense? Okay, that's the preview of the meeting. Okay, at any point, anybody can jump in and ask questions or whatever, but let's start by going around the room with brief introductions. Start with Rosie.
Rosie Hernandez with the Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Mike Sopchak with the Wasatch Front Regional Council Communications.
Shauna Meekum with Mountain Land Association of Governments.
I said this already. I'm Andrew Gruber. I'm Executive Director at WFRC. You'll see we're talking into the mics because the folks online cannot hear you if you don't talk into the mic. So please remember to talk into the mic and push the green button.
Molly Enos. I'm a resident of the city of Mill Creek and an architect with Arcadis IBI Group. Mike Christensen. I'm Vice Chair of the Salt Lake City Planning Commission and also Executive Director of the Utah Rail Passengers Association.
Curtis Herring. I'm the Executive Director of the Utah Transit Riders Union.
Michelle Wright. I am the project leader of the Black African and Afro Latinx Health Initiative, and I also represent Project Success.
Good evening, everyone. Glad to be here. Carolyn Hoskins, Early Head Start.
Now it's green. Zuri Garcia, community member of Davis County.
My name is Bianca Paulino, and I'm with the Salt Lake County Kearns Library in Greater Salt Lake MSD.
Hi, everyone. Leah Baez with United Way of Salt Lake. I'm also a resident of Mill Creek.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Waters. I am with the community engagement team at the Utah Transit Authority.
Jay Aguilar, Long Range Planner for UDOT.
Halima Noor, and representing the refugee community.
Sarah Cody, private citizen in Cottonwood Heights.
I'm Andrea Olson, the Planning Director at UDOT.
I'm Kendall Willardson, the Transportation Planner at the Mountain Land Association of Governments.
Yeah, I'm Nikki Navia with Wasatch Front Regional Council Long Range Planning.
Edward Bennett with the Swazo Business Center.
Thank you. Bert Granberg. I'm with the analytics group at WFRC, data and mapping nerds, essentially.
Okay, and then Jordan Chandler is over there. And just for the people in the room, if anybody has any logistical questions, transit, somebody help me here. What are we doing? Parking validations? Oh, and the gift cards to. Okay, so talk to Jordan about that. You probably already did. And then also, just as a reminder, the restrooms are behind Jordan. Okay, back over there. Okay, now let's go online. Angelo, Martine, Lauren, introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Angelo Papastamas at UDOT Transportation Planning Manager.
Hello, I'm Martin Fernandez, a Spanish interpreter for the meeting.
Hi, I'm Lauren Victor, Long Range Transportation Planner at WFRC.
Okay, Sandra, Rosie, that's you, right? Sandra, Claudia, and Francesca.
Hey, I'm Sandra, Salt Lake City resident, and I do a lot with OCA Utah.
Claudia, can you hear us? There we go.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I have to keep my camera off from the majority of the meeting because I'm taking care of a newborn, but I'm Claudia Loaiza, and I work for the Division of Multicultural Affairs, and really great to see everyone. And yeah, sorry, again, I might have my camera off for the majority of the meeting, but I'm happy to be here.
It's okay, and congratulations to you.
Hi, I'm Francisca Blanc, also known as Francesca.
Sorry, Francesca.
That's okay. It's all right. It's totally fine. I am the development officer with the in-between. I'm also a housing advocate, and I'm a renter, a resident of Salt Lake City.
Thanks. Okay, Julie, Jem, Hugh.
Hi, I'm Julie Bjornstedt with the Wasatch Front Regional Council Long Range Planning staff.
Hi folks, my name is Jamlo Kia. My pronouns are they and them. I'm a planning researcher at UTA and I'm filling in for Alex Bime.
Hey everybody, this is Hugh Wagaman on WFRC staff with the Long Range Planning Group. Thanks.
Okay. Rosie, Mike, did I miss any logistics information before we turn it over to Lauren? Did I miss anything? No? Okay, great. So now I want to go to Lauren. Lauren would have been with us today, but she is recovering from a cold, and so she's practicing good behavior by participating remotely. But Lauren is going to walk us through the updated objectives for this group. Lauren, take it away.
Thanks, Andrew. I will go ahead and have Nikki get started on there. Perfect. Okay, so
this has been kind of mentioned before, but Nikki, if you could just go back one, sorry. Okay. So we came to you in our first community advisory committee meeting and presented 5 draft objectives for the committee. We spent time together in our breakout groups discussing and suggesting modifications. So our team then compiled those recommendations, and we'll also send out that compilation of those comments. And together we reworked them into our shared committee objectives. So we also organized them into broader categories that I will walk through now in advance. So the Wasatch Choice Community Advisory Committee and transportation agencies will work together on an ongoing basis to advance the following shared objectives. So kind of the first grouping that we have is planning. So objective A is transportation partners will inform the advisory committee on Wasatch Choice vision plans and programs and create a space for learning about transportation and land use efforts. And we kind of have 2 things underneath that. Sorry if the font is a little too small, but they read space for learning will be created through our meetings. So we're going to actively create these spaces for learning in these meetings that we're having and any outreach that we may do. And we'll also tools and resources will be shared on an ongoing basis. We actually have kind of a resource page that we will share at the end of this meeting that Mike has created. So we'll work and make sure that we are sharing information and make sure that we all have correct information and pertinent information for all of the things that we're presenting and sharing. The next objective is the advisory committee will advise transportation partners on planning efforts relevant to the needs and lived experiences of diverse communities throughout the Wasatch Front region. Go ahead and advance. And so the next little grouping that we had was outreach and engagement. So objective C is the transportation partners will regularly share plans, studies, and programs along with supportive materials and resources with the advisory committee to share with the community. Objective D is the advisory committee will 1, advise transportation partners on new avenues for outreach and public engagement for the Wasatch Choice vision and related transportation and land use efforts, and will 2, increase awareness and spread the word with members of their communities. In advance. And then the last objective we have under responsibility. So the advisory committee will communicate issues and ideas related to transportation and land use to the transportation partners. The transportation partners will work with the advisory committee to consider issues identified through planning efforts. So that was reading a lot. I believe you have this information in front of you as well, so you can reference that. We will also share this. We've shared this in the email, and this will be part of our resources as well. But this is kind of our reworked shared committee objectives that kind of an outcome from our first meeting together. Are there any questions on that?
Lauren, I'll just note, I don't think we have, some people have it in front of them, some people, did we print it out for everybody? We did print it out. Oh, I just didn't have one. Okay, terrific, good. Okay, thanks, Lauren. Sorry, anybody to Lauren's point?
Any questions or comments?
Jordan has copy, good, thank you.
Okay. And so that's going to kind of lead into one of the things on there is we're going to have kind of a call to action today. So we'll be gathering your ideas on how to further engage with broader communities on the draft 2023-2050 RTPs for both WFRC and MAG. We'll get into that in a little bit. Advance.
RTPs are the regional transportation plans that I was mentioning before.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes.
Now you have to put a quarter in the cup for using it.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And so now we'll kind of just retouch on the Wasatch Choice vision. We brought this up at our first meeting, but we want to share a video that was created for kind of a quick overview of this. We'll have Nikki pull that video up. someone's pulling that up, right?
While Rosie's getting that, I'll just note on these objectives, remember what I described about what we're going to do in this meeting about the plan? Hopefully that made sense as you look at these objectives. Planning, there's we, the transportation partners, will inform you, the advisory committee. You, the advisory committee, will advise us, transportation partners. That's the planning section. And then the outreach and engagement will share information with you, and then you'll help us to spread the word about that information and then get feedback. So planning, outreach and engagement, and then just again, the responsibility, but that our commitments we're making to each other, that you're going to provide information and we're going to work to consider those issues as we go forward in our work. So hopefully that all makes sense to everybody. And it reflects the conversations we had and the feedback that we had from you from the last meeting. So thank you very much. Did I buy you enough time, Rosie?
Shared vision for transportation investments, development patterns, and economic opportunities. While we're currently dealing with health,
You
economic...
just started over one more time. Okay, thanks.
Utah is growing, and we have a plan. Our future quality of life depends on the choices we make today. The Wasatch Choice Vision is our community's shared vision for transportation investments, development patterns, and economic opportunities. While we're currently dealing with health, economic, and other issues related to COVID-19, Utah is still the fastest growing state in the nation, and our rapid growth challenges haven't gone away. In this time of uncertainty, the short-term changes we're considering may affect our long-term community outcomes. The Wasatch Choice Vision was created with broad community input and buy-in. It represents a shared vision for our future. Its 4 key strategies can help us find solutions as we plan for economic recovery and continued quality of life in the face of a pandemic. The pandemic has shown that more people want to walk and bike in our communities. Wasatch Choice has our shared plan for investment in active transportation, as well as roadways and public transportation. As our economy continues its recovery, it'll be even more important to keep a diverse set of housing options available across the Wasatch Front for people with varying preferences at different life stages and with different income levels. The pandemic has demonstrated the need for more outdoor recreation areas, not just in the mountains or large sites, but also parks and trails closer to home. Utah's economic strength has always depended on how easily workers can access job opportunities. Wasatch Choice helps employees get to more destinations easily by envisioning job centers and workforce housing closer to major road and transit opportunities. Where growth occurs matters. While there's no one-size-fits-all approach, as communities grow and work together to implement the Wasatch Choice Vision, we'll see many benefits: stronger communities, improved transportation, enhanced environment, more housing choices, fiscal responsibility, and a strong economy. The Wasatch Choice Vision serves as a guidepost as we work together to consider solutions to the long-term effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Growth is still coming, and communities along the Wasatch Front have a plan, the Wasatch Choice Vision, to maintain and enhance quality of life in the face of growth. Learn more about the Wasatch Choice Vision and participate in your community's conversation about how to address today's challenges and create a brighter tomorrow.
Millions find a low-cost health plan at healthcare.gov so they can...
This plan brought to you by healthcare.gov. Just kidding.
And now we'll hand it off to Leah, actually, to talk a little bit about, we're going to be doing this at each of the sessions, just, you know, it's not often that we get to come together and share our lived experiences and personal transportation stories, as well as share the work that we do that are relevant to you know, each other. So from here, we'll hand it off to Leah to talk about some of her experiences and also job background as well.
I'll try to do my best to set like a good precedent. I'm the guinea pig for this. Yeah, so I'm Leah Baez. Again, I work with United Way of Salt Lake as policy director. It's a two-person policy team. It's a good time. And so basically, United Way's mission is to close racial and economic disparity gaps. And specifically, we work in a 6-district community. United Way, along with our Promise Partnership Regional Council. And that is kind of a conglomeration of these 6 districts that we work with, which include Granite, Davis School District, Canyon School District, Murray, a few others. And we get to work with local cities, municipalities, and with the state legislature as well. On kind of my side of the shop, we work specifically in systems transformation. So we really look at pain points in the community that can be addressed by specific legislation. So one issue we've been working on for the past 3 years for this session is full day kindergarten and optional full day kindergarten accessibility for Utah families. We know that's a burden on many communities, regardless of income level, but lower income levels obviously feel that burden a little more heavily. So we're working on a bill to expand access to full day kindergarten. We also at United Way run Utah 211, which is a community organization, information organization. So we have a database of about upwards of 10,000 community resources that people can call and get directed to. We also are piloting closed loop referrals. So we won't only call and if you need housing or food, we won't just say go to the food bank or go to the road home or go to the state housing office. We'll say, okay, you can go to these places, but then we'll call you and follow up a week later and say, did you get what you needed? If not, how else can we help you? What else do you need? I think I covered the big ones. As for me, I've been in my current position for not quite a year. Before United Way, I was working with Salt Lake County in the mayor's office of diversity and inclusion. Before that, I was in college. So, and I come from an immigrant background. I'm a first generation American, moved to Utah when I was still in elementary school. And as for my personal experience with transit and public transit, I grew up in New York. So public transit there is a system, it's a whole thing. So I grew up pretty comfortable with public transit and moving here, being in primary school and then higher education, I always, took tracks and the bus and it was really comfortable for me. Lately, I've been driving a lot more, which every time I get in my car, it's like a guilt trip because I see the air quality and I'm like, sorry, Earth, but it's just less time consuming and just, I guess, works out a little better for my budget, even paying for gas as expensive as it is to drive than to take public transit. Because when I was a student, I had access to subsidies that covered transit, which is really cool and exciting. That I lived in communities that were piloting those. And then in college, I think most universities have access to public transit subsidies for their students. Yeah, and I'm excited to be here and to learn. At United Way, we're trying to really make sure we're looking at the whole person and seeing our community members and seeing all of their needs. And we know that transportation and housing are a really big part of that and a really big part of social determinants of health and of making sure that people have access to opportunities, which is a big theme that we're hearing in these meetings as well. So yeah, glad to be here with you all. Thanks for the time.
Nikki, can I just say first of all, Leah, thank you very much. Leah and I have known each other for a while and Leah does great work. So thank you for all the ways you're engaged in the community. You reminded me of something I wanted to mention before. In between this meeting and the first meeting of the Community Advisory Committee, we did had an opportunity for any of you, and some of you participated in a conversation specifically about the idea of zero fare transit. Just nodding heads, some of you were participating in that. And what I just sort of heard you say, Leah, is if transit were zero fare, you'd probably use it more. Fair enough? Okay. Yeah, stay tuned. I think, what'd you say, Meg? Gathering data, that's right. More to come on that topic. And I also want to say one more thing logistically for our friends that are online. We are keeping an eye on you, and we have several people who are watching. So if you want to speak, just speak up or raise your hand, or if you want to put something in the chat, go right ahead, because we want to make sure that if you're online, you are engaged. And so we're paying attention if you have any comments. Okay. Nikki, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leah. We really appreciate you being open and willing to share your story, as well as making those connections with the work that you do. So moving forward, that's really what we hope to do coming out of this Community Advisory Committee, not only create connections within this committee, but beyond. So with that, we will talk about the 2023-2050 draft regional transportation plans. And as you had seen in the Wasatch Choice video, there's really three pieces to the Wasatch Choice vision. We look at the local land use piece, which is what local communities have and cities have, exercise a lot of control in. There's a couple of you that are in here that work with your planning commissions. So that is one piece. The regional transportation plan is the second piece, and then the economic activity centers is really a third piece of that Wasatch Choice vision. So what we will be focusing in on is the transportation aspect of that in the middle part. So why is the regional transportation plan important? This is really important because this is where all the projects, major investments all across the region are born. You can see some pictures on here of a few major investments across the region, and it's really not done in a silo. We do it in partnership with our partners at UDOT and our partners at UTA, which is why we have this Community Advisory Committee, together, and we're always, working in tandem with each other. So I'll hand it off to, we're actually going to be, Kendall and I will be presenting this, so we'll be going back and forth here.
All right, awesome. So again, Kendall Willardson with Mountain Land Association of Governments. I'm just going to use the acronym MAG from here on out as a transportation planner. So essentially what I do with MAG is exactly what WFRC does, but down in Utah County, whereas WFRC covers Salt Lake County, Davis, and Weber, along with a bit in Box Elder. That's with Brigham City, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, with MAG, we are down in Utah County. Essentially, and because we are just right next to each other, and we interact with Utah County, Salt Lake, there's so much interaction between that as a partnership. We share a lot too with data, with our processes, and that goes along with our regional transportation plan. So real quick, this is regional transportation plan in a nutshell. I wish I could take credit for that picture, but it's great. And so this is what I primarily am also doing at MAG. So hopefully I can explain it well enough here and pass, you know that I'm doing my job good, right? So there's many different aspects, but the primary thing is it's regional, and it deals with transportation, and we put it into a plan. It's every 4 years that we update it, because as we know, the world is moving ever so fast. We present a number of transportation projects. So, and the goal is that we want to, within the next 30 years, work on different transportation, and we estimate that cost and see how we can financially constrain it And what that means is we break down our timeline or where our transportation is into phases. So phase 1, 2, and 3, and they roughly cover a decade of time. And we, using data, discussion with partners, decide where we see the need for transportation projects and when about the time we can fund it. And that goes into also with air quality is a huge aspect of it too. And what the timing and just also that we want to promote an environment that that we're cleaning it through projects. And so the main transportation projects that we work with are roadways, transit, and also active transportation. And so that ranges from in the roadways like widening roads or safety projects, creating new ones. Transit is your buses, your light rail, your front runner, active transportation from your trails to your bike paths. So there's a lot that we work with. And obviously a big proponent of that is understanding where are the needs, talking to our cities, our partners, and we'll go more into that here in the next couple slides.
Okay, so this is a little bit about how we incorporate equity into the regional transportation plan. So we use this access to opportunities framework, which is a framework for evaluating how well people can connect to their employment, basic needs, and communities. So it really boils down to mobility, so the speed of how you travel, the proximity, so how far away those destinations are. And then that in turn is what we call accessibility, so the ease of how we reach those different destinations, whether it's biking, whether it's taking transit, whether it's driving. So we talk about access to opportunities a lot in our work, and we are actually developing a video and are updating some resources, which we hope we can share with you more in another meeting here. But this is kind of just a high level overview of what access to opportunities is. And then we also use access to opportunities with an equity lens, looking at these equity focus areas. Right now we have households with lower income, racial ethnic minority, as well as zero car households. We're actually, Bert's team is actually developing a cool tool where you can look at this on an interactive basis, and we'll have a lot more factors that aren't only looking at these three, but looking at limited English populations, for example, households with disabilities, and a lot of other metrics. So you can kind of see in the maps here how we look at equity. The first map is really, let me see if I can, the equity focus areas. So the green is what was defined as the equity focus areas and meet those thresholds of the three that you see on the left. And then on the two columns that are in the middle on the right, you can see this access to opportunities score to those equity focus areas by car and also by transit. So you can see that, like, for example, West Salt Lake City, which is recognized as a high equity focus area, actually has really good access to auto use. But when you look, for example, on the far right column, looking at the transit, if you go further west to Magna or in some parts of Ogden, for example, there's lower access to opportunity score. So we use this in our work when we evaluate projects because it's important to understand the lens that they are coming from, and we're ensuring that we're considering that in the project evaluation. Another piece that we also look at is, or we've been doing, is highlighting transportation stories and experiences. You can actually see Curtis up there riding his bike. We are trying to, you know, transportation can be, it's a lot of metrics, it can be a lot of information, and we really want to make sure that we are highlighting stories, personal lived experiences from individuals across the region. So one new thing that we've done in this planning cycle is highlighting personal stories from individuals across the region, and getting people involved in that, and you know, compensating them for their time to share their stories. So we are actually, I'm going to put a plug in for Mike and the Unified Transportation Plan, which is the greater, all the MPOs and UDOT as well as UTA develop in tandem with each other, because we're looking for you know, personal stories that of folks all across the state. And I don't know if Mike, if you want to share more information about that, if folks have any individuals that they would like to nominate.
We actually have received over 20. So we just recently closed the period in which we're collecting stories. But if you have any stories that are top of mind, just let me know, and we'll see if we can get them incorporated for consideration. Excuse me.
Thank you.
So this is our timelines we're going to show. And I just wanted to, before we move forward, with the regional transportation plan, what that entails, is there any questions, or just it makes sense? And I know a lot of you do work with us on that. Great. And if you do, just you're more than welcome to pipe in too. So this is kind of the schedules that we have. This is Wasatch Front Regional Councils. We always are constantly working on the regional transportation plan, but especially for both of our organizations, we kind of laid some of the foundation work in 2021, and a lot of this is data collection. It's creating a needs-based list, which is when do we think a project is needed, along with fiscally constraining. So when do we think we can afford the project? And there are also opportunities for public input. MAG just recently had one in October. We're going to have a final official one in March, and WFRC is going to start theirs coming next month in mid-January. So the hope and is that we finish up the 2023 update in the spring of 2023. So coming soon. And so that's kind of the timeline right there. So just kind of going to public input. This is actually from MAG when we had our public input blast in October. And this is, I believe these slides will be shared. And this is a QR code actually to our active our 2023 update. You can gain information, see our goals for the region, and then we also provide a map here. Just this is all our current RTP projects, both roads, transit, and then also trails. And this is just one of the ways we do with online is the opportunity that you can click on a project. It will if you get and you can speak directly to a specific, for example, the Utah Lakeshore Trail, give us contact info, and then send the comment off. And then you are able to see other people's comments that were submitted. So we're hoping we can do something similar in the future when we do go to public comment again in March. But this is very an important tool for us that we use, and it really makes it easy for us to also, on the mapping GIS side, connect everything together. It's great. I do love the paper maps, but sometimes it can be messy trying to get that converted into computers. So we've enjoyed using this tool. So that's what we do. We've done with MAG.
Yeah, and then I will just show the WFRC example here too. WFRC has a similar tool where you can also click on all the different all the different modes, and also identify it by which year the project is going to be potentially built by or needed by. And so this is really what, this isn't the commenting tool that we will be using, but it'll be something similar for the public comment period. So going back to the time frame, yeah, our public comment period is going to be January 17th to February 16th for Wasatch Front Regional Council, and then for MAG it will be for the entire period of March. So that's really when we are, asking for the final time frame for getting guidance and input on projects. And with that, today's call for discussion is really like Andrew had said earlier, is how else do we engage with broader communities on these draft 2023-2050 RTPs. We've engaged through elected officials, planning commissions, city staff, as well as select stakeholders like universities and different landholding groups and environmental groups and such. But just thinking about the reach and the scope of the community advisory committee, how else do you think we can engage on the 2023-2050 RTPs? So leave it up for an open discussion. Oh yeah, go ahead.
This is Edward from the Swazo Center. Have you done community outreach, like roundtable workshop type meetings? Because we have a pretty decent size space at the center. We're right in these districts. We're on 17th South and 9th West, right in the middle of a traffic madhouse. We've done engagements for the Inland Port, for UDOT, some other regional things in the past. So if that's something that you want to look at going out into the community, there are organizations like ours that can host you.
That's really helpful. Are there any, and I guess I will also follow up to reduce the work, like, are there any existing meetings or, like just making sure that we are not creating extra time or work for you all to host any information about the regional transportation plans? Like, does your organizations or maybe the channels that you work with or advocate in, are there avenues that maybe we can collaborate? See you nodding your head.
Yeah, I like Edward's suggestion of like finding a central place where the community feels comfortable to go and do a sort of roundtable or like a community forum. But I would strongly suggest that it's broken down into language they understand versus like, here's this huge report, maybe highlighting some of the pieces that really do impact them specifically. And then on the point of established meetings, I know, for example, the community group I work with, we meet every Wednesday at noon, but we have other times that we've held for like, do we want to meet about X, Y, or Z? So maybe one of the things if you have the capacity to do is if you reach out to us as a collective, we can let you know this is when we meet, and I know for us, we'd love to have you come and talk to our group.
Thank you. We do have a hand raised, I believe, Claudia.
Yeah, Claudia. And then I will just respond to that like that's super fantastic. I think that's definitely something that we would be more than happy to go to you and take, and share more information. We've done that to the Utah Passenger Rails Association and other avenues, and we're more than happy to do that. So, oh yeah.
Also, if you could look at community assessments in various communities to see what's out there.
Carolyn, you said community assessments. Could you just say a little more about what you envision as a community assessment, please?
Okay, it's like the group that I work with, Early Head Start, in order, when we look at our community assessments, we look at, you know, people that living in the community, their income, all of that, and that's based on our selection criteria points as to where the family will be able to fit on in our program and everything. Because we do serve, you know, the underprivileged, and we go by those government guidelines. But the more, if the community assessment is saying, you know, that minorities are in this group and in the low income also, you know, things like that.
Nikki, I mean, that's a great idea, and it sounds like something we would definitely be able to do to provide some information, some statistical information about the communities and the demographic makeup and what kind of access to existing transportation there is, what areas are missing access. Is that going in the direction of what you're talking about?
And like with us, we can't transport families or anything, but we're able to like provide an Uber or taxi, things like that, give them tokens for UTA, whatever the case might be.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, Claudia, do you want to go?
Sure. Yeah. Just echoing everything that's been shared so far in terms of reaching out to us as a group and maybe providing some suggestions for existing bodies or commissions that we can get this conversation on our agendas. I think something else that has come to mind that I know our organization is trying to be more mindful of is really intentionally reaching out to youth and kind of emerging leaders to not just I think give them a space to share or talk. And I use an example of a focus group that we just had with some high schoolers in South Jordan. And I think that there's just this overgrowing perception that, this age group is adopting, or not adopting, but inheriting so much of the challenges that we're kind of creating as we go in terms of congestion and maybe pollution and climate change and all that. So I'd recommend definitely to the group here to maybe identify some schools, some school groups, or youth councils even within each city or a group of cities maybe that you are wanting to work with, because we learned so much just from the handful of youth councils that we worked with. And again, it doesn't have to be so such a larger extensive group, but I think that students, especially those that are, I think, transitioning from high school to a higher education path or looking into a career path, I don't think have kind of this mobility discussion in mind, even though it affects them so much in their day-to-day. So that's if anything, that's one thing I would recommend, just being mindful of opportunities to really center the youth experience.
Yeah, those are really great comments. I think that oftentimes we don't consider youth and their perspective, and it's really getting them engaged too in the conversation. So thanks, Claudia.
I just wanted to follow up and ask a question about the community assessments. Also, how often do you revise those or update them?
They're done on a yearly basis.
Okay. And I guess I'm wondering if those could be overlaid with the access to opportunities and the other map, I think that we already talked about. And then maybe also compare how each group's events that we're going to take input on, how they outreach to different populations and kind of compare them and see if some are better than others, or if, again, kind of along the lines of what you said before, trying to keep it efficient for everyone, but also identifying whether some of those events may miss some of the populations.
One thing that I'm a part of is called like the Utah Refugee Service Providers Network, and they meet every single month. This is where agencies like Catholic Community Center, refugee services, IRC, all those agencies come and they talk about how many refugees are coming to the US and such. And I think each month we have like a guest speaker come in. Maybe someone from your agency can come in as a guest speaker, talk about the plan and get some feedback from community members to reach out to like the folks that they're like that they work with. And also next door maybe might be something. There's a lot of each person, each community has next door on their phone. And so that's where a lot of input, oh, this is happening in our neighborhood or this is happening. Maybe that's something you can post on there too.
Just to add to that, sorry, Nikki.
Oh, go ahead, Leah.
Thanks. The PPRC, the Promise Partnership Regional Council is broken up into networks, and one of our networks focuses on financial stability, a huge part of which is transit. And another network focuses on health and social determinants of health. And so both of those committees then have access to schools and local education agencies. So it would be a pretty great, I think, gateway if you wanted to present to any one of those networks in their meetings. They do meet monthly as well.
That's great. Do you have more information for both the like the refugee and service providers as well as the Promise program? Would you be willing to share that or kind of have a general idea of when the next meeting will be? Okay.
And I just wanted to go off of what Claudia had said. I definitely think our younger students, our high school students, have a lot to say. I also did say or hear that you had said that you've been working with the universities. I do wonder if you've worked with university students, although I am a private citizen and I do not speak for our university. I do work at the university with our Black Cultural Center and our Black students. And a lot of them are transit writers and they have a lot to say. They have a lot to say. And honestly, a lot of them plan on being transit writers forever. If not that, then they're going to get e-bikes. And so I think that our university students are going to be a great source because they are going to be the ones who are going to be writing in 2050, honestly, right? And so getting their input is going to be important.
Yeah, thank you so much. We've worked when we've talked with a U, usually it's been with the planning students specifically. So I think broadening that scope is going to be something that's really important for us to do moving forward.
And we have, so like I'm at the Black Cultural Center, we have the American Indian Research Center, we have Health EDI, we have student groups in so many different like identity groups that it'd be pretty easy. Like we just had a like climate conversation 2 weeks ago where we had a bunch of students coming together from all different like identities to discuss how climate control can happen within our university space. So it's something that the students are wanting to talk about as well. So yeah.
I just wanted to jump in on your comment and say that, well, two things, but one specifically to what you just said. Because I was in grad school at the U, it actually led to me using transit so much that I got rid of my car. And also I bought an e-bike this summer. So which it's parked down the hall if you want to take a look at it after. But one of the other things I wanted to point out, and I'm really happy for the way that this community advisory committee is set up. One of the problems that I see going on too often is that the way that we do public outreach really isn't listening to the community early enough in the process, that a lot of times a plan is already formulated and submitted to the public and the public's asked for input on it, when if you would have started earlier in the process, you would have had a different result working with the public because you would have potentially realized that that isn't what the public really wanted or needed.
I want to uplift that as well. And I think a lot of times when we forget to ask public earlier, we cause more harm than good. And so getting public input sooner could alleviate that harm.
I think, did you both, Zuri, I saw you both have comments. Can I before you go, can I just want to give one quick reaction to this point about when? I think that we need to do public engagement all the time. And I want to be honest with you all about where we're at right now in the cycle. And I know Nikki talked about this a little. We update the regional transportation plan on a 4-year cycles, okay? We actually can amend it. We periodically amend it as we go also. We're towards the end. Just want to be upfront about this. We're towards the end of a 4-year cycle. So it's not right now, it's not the beginning. So you could either say, oh, well, it's too late. Or you could say it's too early because we're going to start right away again on another cycle. So I guess my view on this would be, I don't want to wait and say, oh, well, let's not do public engagement now. And we've been, just to be clear, we have been doing public engagement, okay? But enhanced with your help and partnership. I don't want to say now, well, let's wait because most of the plan is done now. I'd like to get going and then lay some groundwork, and then we'll come back again when at the very beginning of the next planning process. I mean, I think our hope here, and I'm looking at Nikki and Mike and Rosie, like the idea here is that we build this in as more of a practice that we're doing all the time. So I hope that sounds okay to you. I just want to be open with you about sort of where we're at in our cycles now.
Can I mention something along the same lines?
Yes, and then we'll go here. Yeah,
I
go ahead.
think a lot, to Andrew's point, a lot of the things that these plans are built upon are all of the individual communities plans that included a lot of public involvement and outreach.
Yeah,
as well.
Thanks. Sorry, go ahead.
Just a couple of thoughts. One of them is when it comes to engaging youth, the Utah State University Extension, I was previously with them, and they are a really good connection to youth through their youth and 4-H programs. And there might be a little bit less, sometimes when bringing youth together through school districts, which I'm with them right now, might be a little bit more challenging, but so that's one avenue. And then I'm just thinking community health or community assessments. I know Davis County, I used to have a little bit more transportation included there in theirs. I'm not sure, you might have already been involved or have all that, their community health assessments and plans. And I feel like it sounds like they're doing something with diversity. I'm in the classroom like all day, and so I don't know what's happening, but I feel like there's something happening there with diversity. You might want to tap into maybe.
Well, I wanted to add, I guess also to add on what you said about when to do the community engagement. And I think oftentimes the plans are really far into the future or vague, where you can't really see how it's going to affect you long term. And when that is the case, it's hard to engage communities because they don't see like how in the future it would affect them and their communities. And I think it is hard to know, but I think just having that transparency of how it could affect them is really important. And then also with United Way, I worked as a grassroots organizer like last year, and there's lots of community organizers that are doing projects. And I think what I've learned from that was just being willing to try new things. So even if one community engagement project doesn't work, as long as you tried something and maybe you got one person, but I think that's my other thought with like partnering with schools and libraries. I think parent groups, the youth councils, like Claudia said, and just trying all the different like organizations that exist. On that point, that was really well said, Bianca. For community engagement, I feel like we at United Way and like specifically on the policy team, we've recently like started looking at our processes for community engagement, or I guess the lack thereof. And so that like continuous improvement piece, but also like that continuous community engagement piece of like always engaging the community, asking for input, even when you don't know exactly like what you're aiming for. I feel like in this case, though, you have a clear sense of direction obviously. But I think even if you didn't, one thing or two things that communities always know when prompted and asked, it's, you know, their current situation, pain points in their communities, pain points that they feel in their lives, and what would better those circumstances, what they wish for their lives, for their children's lives. So
I don't want to disregard the folks online. Are there any comments online? And I know, Jem, you've provided some comments in the chat. I don't know if anyone wants to share and verbally share anything. Jeremy or anyone else? Jem, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I just want to say really quickly, I think a lot of the conversation is moving in such a way that I think is really exciting and super generative in ways that I haven't necessarily seen in other spaces. So thank you for that. And I want to say too, that I really appreciate the type of vulnerability that I think is coming out in some of the conversations so far. It sounds like a lot of these things topics that are coming up with regards to outreach and yeah, with regards to outreach, right, are extremely complicated. And it sounds like very time sensitive at the moment. And so I'm very curious to see how we navigate through these sort of uncertain waters at this time. And happy to be here.
Yeah, I think that like, you know, Andrew had spoken to this already. We have collective regional transportation plans that we buy into and are getting public comment in the next few months, but we want to make this process better, right? We're all here to improve this and find ways that we can learn from each other and also help bring this information so we can uplift our communities. So even if I think this conversation has been really great because we have some very direct meetings that we could go to, it sounds like in the next couple months, and really had good, valuable information from that it sounds like we'll definitely follow up on. But beyond that, I think that there's so much more that we can do, whether it's creating the spaces for youth and having more conversations that are more targeted to different communities. So it's an iterative process, and just really grateful to have this space to be able to talk about this. So with that, I know that Andrew, do you want to?
May I?
Yeah.
Just one thing that's in my mind that I want to ask you all about. I think, Leah, you said this, Bianca, you got at this also, this idea that plans that go out decades into the future and like think about the whole region it's not the way people typically think, right? They think about, Leah, you said this, their current experience and their pain points, et cetera. And so sometimes it's a little hard for anybody to wrap their minds around, what do you think the future should be in 2050? What do you think about this plan at a regional level? Okay, so here's what I'm thinking is that it might be helpful. I imagine that when we go to these meetings, when we work with the community, that we're probably going to get a lot of feedback that is maybe not so much about the plan for the region decades into the future. It may be about, well, here's what's going on in my community now and what our community's needs are. So that's just a reality, and that's fine. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I just wanted to ask the question, maybe it would make sense, and this is maybe for our UTA and UDOT partners, to lead with the plan, but then also have an openness to getting some input or feedback about what's happening now, today, right? Because what I certainly would not want is for some community members to put their time in and express their views and needs about what's going on in their life, and for us to say, oh, well, that's not a regional transportation plan thing. You'd have to talk to somebody else about that. right? Like we at least want to be able to meet people where they are. So I guess my point is we can lead with the plan. That's the main purpose. But if we get feedback from folks, I mean, Megan, you do a lot with the community and UTA on service now, but I think we should be open to getting feedback about whatever people have to say about the transportation system now. Let's be open to that, not make it like, sorry, this is the wrong meeting for that feedback. So I guess to some extent, I'm like, does that sound good? And then I'm also asking UTA on behalf of WFRC and MAG, would you be willing to have that kind of approach where we're open to feedback on anything? Megan's nodding yes. Andrea's nodding yes. Okay.
Yeah, Angela has a raised hand.
Angelo. Oh, yes. Okay. Angelo, with you, Dot.
Yeah, I was pitching in. You know, I knew Andrea would say yes. Okay, it's from my perspective, you know, I would love to be getting input on the now, the 5 years from now, the 30 years from now. Okay, I think we can all look at things. You know, Megan and I work closely together. UDOT and UTA work closely together. There's just many aspects that we can do with the now of. You know, we got programs that are dealing with that right now with TravelWise and Move Utah. So I would love to.
Thank you. Jay?
I just want to acknowledge that we struggle with that all the time, is trying to make context and relatable things that help people understand why the long range plan stuff and the regional transportation plans, how they do relate to the current stuff. And I don't know if you want to talk about how they do relate to the current stuff, or if you've already talked about that.
Well, I'll just say really briefly that we may have a shared vision for the future of our community, but the way we get there is by the decisions and actions that we take today. It's not some future thing that lives out there that doesn't, to make a future vision a reality, we have to work together to change the present. So that's a very general response to your question, Jay. Okay, Nikki, back to you.
Yeah, I think from here, we will be following up with, you know, some of these opportunities to engage with existing avenues. And then I wanted to leave, because we have 10 minutes, time for announcements or anything that other folks want to share. You know, make sure that we are communicating and it's not one-sided, obviously. So yeah, leaving it up for any other items that people want to bring up to this group. Oh yeah, okay. You have an item? Yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Oh yeah.
Taking advantage of brief silence. So I'm Bert Granberg with the analytics group at WFRC. We do a lot of the modeling and forecasting of how people are going to get around in the region and also where we're going to live and work in the future. And one of the things that we do working with our transportation agency partners like UDOT and UTA and MAG is about every 10 years, we do what's called a household travel survey. And we ask thousands of people to participate. We incentivize them to participate. And we ask them questions about how they get around during the day, what modes of transportation they use, what types of trips they're making, how, you know, how many people are in their household, whether the households have vehicles, transit passes, that kind of thing. And it's really important information because we take that and we build that into our models that tell us, like, if we build a new transit line, how many people are going to ride it, or if we build this new widening of a highway, how fast will it fill? So it kind of, you know, it gets at people's appetite for travel, and both for you know, day-to-day needs, work, groceries, etc., but also for you know, things we like to do, like going for a walk in the park or going to the movies. So we're doing this in the spring of 2023. So it'll be our first survey since 2012. We wanted to do it last year, but we kind of delayed so we could get back to, you know, something resembling post-pandemic. And Last time around, I think we had 9,000 households participate, and we selected them randomly by picking addresses. And I'm sure, as many of you are aware, you don't necessarily get a representative sample when you do ask people to respond to stuff they get in the mail. So this time around, we're doing what we call a supplemental sample. We're going to work through community-based organizations to invite a broad spectrum of participants, try and hit some targets in terms of diversity of participation. And mostly, I just wanted to let you know that this household travel survey project is coming up in the next few months. We'll start our outreach to community-based organizations and try to recruit, try to help them, or have community-based organizations help us to recruit a sample in this survey that looks like, the residents of our state. And I forgot one thing, and that is we'll also work through college campuses, because student travel is very different in some ways than typical household travel. We'll try and get about 4,000 students to participate working through the campuses. So mostly it's a heads up, nothing to do now, but I think we'll try and work through members of this committee and a pretty long list of other organizations to try and get the word out and try and find folks who are willing to participate. So I'll stop there. If anyone has any questions, I could maybe take one now or after we conclude.
Just make it a little more real in that if anybody, so first of all, folks in this room could participate and take the survey and could share the opportunity to take the survey with folks that you know or folks in your organizations. There's an incentive to do so, whatever that means, for like another gift card or something. And then how long would it take to fill out the survey, roughly?
We have a couple different varieties of surveys. We have a daily survey where just tell us about today. And you can do that through with the assistance of a call center. And I think that they have Spanish call takers for that. You can do it on the web for your household or an online form. That's about 1 day of travel. And then new this time around, we have a smartphone app. Our survey provider has a smartphone app that's easy to use, but it collects a 7-day travel diary. And there's a bigger incentive for folks that do that because we're learning more about people's travel behavior. So there'll be at least those 3 options. And the minor, the 1-day commitment probably takes, I'm guessing, like 20 minutes or 25 minutes to participate.
And we'll share information out about that. More info to come.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Just a heads up, more info to come directly to you as members of the Community Advisory Committee, but then also to, like I said, a long list of community-based organizations.
You have an estimated date when we're wanting to start that?
So we're hoping to start toward the end of February. And the main reason for that is we want to try and, it's a statewide survey. We want to try and get some of the seasonal residents in the St. George area before they head off to wherever they live the rest of the year. But the bulk of the survey will happen in the spring. So March, April, May into June. And it's a big survey, lots of households. So it gets staggered over several months.
Okay. Yeah. The reason I ask is one suggestion I would put out there is for college students is their orientation times. And I can connect you with some contacts because I know specifically for Salt Lake Community College, part of their orientation is orienting students to transportation. So it'd actually be a wonderful segue to not only them telling them, okay, as students, you have access to these buses, this transportation, but there's also this survey opportunity. So I can send that your way.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely work through all of the colleges. Certainly Salt Lake Community Colleges is on that list of contacts, but yeah, we got to get students before they get to finals and move on to other things in the summer. So that's also another consideration. All right, thank you.
Yeah, and then Claudia has her hand up. So thanks, Bert.
cover for a second.
Okay.
If that's for me.
Yeah, sorry, also wanted to share out another survey that our division is putting out as part of our 3-year strategic plan. This is the first time that the Division of Multicultural Affairs has kind of engaged in this effort. So just wanted to plop the link in the chat, and then I don't know if it's possible to maybe share it with the group, but we're really just wanting to kind of align ourselves a little bit more with our ever-growing and diversifying state. So there's quite a few different projects and initiatives that we want to make sure that are definitely community led, especially knowing that we're going into this new calendar year with just, you know, a variety of challenges kind of facing our state through, I know we've kind of briefly touched on this a little bit, right? Just through just regional growth, but also knowing that as a division, we serve our multicultural community statewide. We also just want to make sure that we're reaching our statewide community as a whole, and making sure that we're trying to be inclusive of the geographic diversity of our state too. So I'll put that in the chat, but December 16th is the date for submissions and responses, and we'll probably be hosting some community discussions as well as a follow-up to some of the things that we learned from the survey. So just also wanted to give a shout out to that.
Awesome. Thanks, Claudia. And before we go, I forgot to give the mic to Mike, because this is really helpful that there's all these surveys happening and events. Mike, do you want to talk about the resource?
Yeah, and the website. So we know we've shared a lot of information with you today, the previous meeting, and via a litany of emails. We've created sort of a one-page resource archive that will likely expand into a couple pages, but please snap this QR code. We will also share it with you afterwards. It'll have a lot of the resources that we've discussed in these meetings, outside of these meetings, some foundational materials for you to better understand the work that we and our partners do. That'll be here as sort of a one-stop shop that will continue to update, so it's evergreen. And then if you don't mind flipping one more slide. So the Wasatch Front Regional Council has a website, and all of our committees and the namesake council have web pages. We'd like to create a web page for this committee, and that would include, you know, basic information like the summary, the objectives that were shared today, the meeting schedule, as well as the membership list, potentially your contact information, and some additional resources. So this will be shared with you tomorrow or soon. It's public, but it's not connected to the website yet, just to verify the information that we have up there is correct. And if you want to opt out potentially from being listed, you know, we're happy to work with you on that front. So these two resources will be coming your way for your feedback, for your eyes. And that's all I got.
Mike, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
On that resource list, if we like the survey links that people are sharing, is that something we should send to you to include on that list, or is that editable by the committee members to share updates? How does that work?
I think it would probably be best for you to share it with us, and then we'll add it to there. Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome. Well, we want to be mindful of everyone's time, and we are at 7 o'clock. So thank you again for your time this evening. If I believe that Jordan, we will be sending out gift cards tomorrow. And if you're online, she, I think, may have reached out to you directly. So if you did not get in contact with Jordan, either in person or online, let us know. And then, yeah, take some roles with you. And with that, thank you so much for your time this evening. Appreciate it.
Do we know when our next meeting is?
March 7th, Tuesday,
March 7th is our
March
next meeting.
7th. Okay. But in advance of that, we're going to be doing more of this stuff around outreach. So we'll have an official meeting like this on March 7th. And we'll be following up with you just to make sure we're all on the same page. We'll be following up sooner about the outreach that we were talking about, which is we want to have that happen in January, February.
Yeah.
Right?
January, February, March.
Okay, good.
So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.